We will call our meeting to order, and we'll begin with a very big and welcoming Happy New Year to everybody who's joining us. We are thrilled you are back from winter break, and we are excited to get the year started. First, we'll start with roll call. Mr. Kirshner.
Madam President, all board members are present.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask you to stand and join me, and also please remain standing for a moment of silence. We unfortunately are sorry to share that we've lost a student, a Carmel High School student, over break, and we want to just have a moment of silence of respect. So please stand and join us. Mr. McMichael and Dr. Dudley are going to join us at the podium for a very special presentation.
Well, thank you. So this evening, as Mrs. Spanenberg said, we do have a very special presentation. And so for our students that are helping us, if you could come up and stand in front here. And I'd also like to invite our board members to come and stand in front of the dais. Well, this week is a very special week. This is School Board Recognition Week, and we have a proclamation that we would like to read, and then we're going to ask our students to honor our board members by presenting them each with a flower. So they'll end up with a beautiful bouquet of flowers in recognition of the great work that you guys all do for us each and every day. So I'll start with reading the proclamation, and then Mr. McMichael will finish it off. So, whereas each year School Board Recognition Week is observed by more than 14,000 school districts, or 350 in Indiana, throughout the United States, and whereas the men and women serving as members of the school boards are dedicated to children, learning, and community, and devote many hours of service to elementary and secondary public education as they continually strive for improvement, excellence, and progress in education, and
whereas the members of the Carmel Clay School Board of Trustees respond to the educational needs of the communities they serve, and in doing so, these leaders help strengthen our state's educational system and improve future prospects for our children. And whereas during the second week of January 2018, spatial recognition is held in observance of School Board Recognition Week, and it is fitting to join in acknowledging the commitment and contributions of our local school board. Therefore, we, Dr. Amy Dudley and Mr. Roger McMichael, Interim Superintendents of Schools for Carmel Clay Schools, do hereby proclaim January the 8th, January 12th, 2018 as School Board Recognition Week.
And then I'll take a couple pictures and I'll let some type of parents take photos.
Right here.
All right, 1, 2.
Well, on behalf of the board, we want to thank you so very, very much. I know each of us feel very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to serve our community and to serve those children of our school district. And we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight and just celebrating with us. So, thank you. And we hope you have a wonderful school year. Now, as much as we'd love for you to stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting, you are welcome to head home and enjoy your evening before you start school tomorrow. So we will pause for a few minutes for you to move along if you like. Next on the agenda, we will resume the meeting. And next on the agenda, we have the election of officers. In the past, we've taken this as a slate, or we can go individually. So may I get a motion from the floor for officers for the 2018 school year?
I am happy to make a motion. I can do it one at a time or do a whole slate, whichever you prefer.
A slate would be great.
Okay. I proposed for the 2018 officers for President Layla Spangenberg, for Vice President Pam Niles, and for Secretary Katie Browning.
Thank you, Mike. May I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of our officers for 2018, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Moving right along, we have appointments, and we have a number of appointments. For that, we will turn to Dr. Dudley.
Okay, thank you. This evening, we are recommending that the board appoint a treasurer, a deputy treasurer, and also a continuation of bonds for the treasurer and deputy treasurer, as well as for the extracurricular treasurers, cafeteria cashiers. And we are recommending Mr. Roger McMichael as treasurer and Mrs. Kara Krolos as deputy treasurer.
Thank you. May I get a motion on the table to approve Mr. McMichael as treasurer and Mrs. Kara Colrose as deputy treasurer?
So move.
Lynn, thank you. Second?
Second.
Pam, thank you, Pam. Discussion? Yes.
Just to clarify for those, this isn't the bond amount, that's like an insurance policy, is that correct? That's not like a salary or anything of that nature? Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of Mr. McMichael serving as treasurer and Mrs. Kara Colrose serving as deputy treasurer signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have our appointment of general counsel. To that, we turn to Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. Each year, it's also necessary for the board to appoint a general counsel. And the administration is recommending the appointment of Mr. David Day as general counsel.
Thank you very much, Mr. McMichael. May I get a motion on the table to appoint Mr. David Day as general counsel?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of supporting Mr. David Day as general counsel for Carmel Clay Schools signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next, appointment of our executive secretary, Mrs. Dudley. Dr. Dudley.
It is also, for the board needs to appoint an executive secretary, and the administration recommends Mrs. Colleen Nobis as executive secretary.
Well, thank you. May I get a motion on the table to approve Mrs. Colleen Nobis as the executive secretary for the board?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have our appointment of our cable television representative. For that, we turn to Mr. McMichael.
Each year, the board traditionally appoints a cable television representative. During this organizational meeting, the administration is recommending appointing Mrs. Christy Cloud as the cable television representative.
Thank you very much. May I get a motion on the table to approve Mrs. Christy Cloud, or appoint Mrs. Christy Cloud as a cable television representative? Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we have our appointment of our Indiana School Board Association delegate and our Indiana School Board Association legislative liaison. Dr. Dudley.
So each year, it's also necessary for the board to appoint a board member to serve as the Indiana School Boards Association delegate and the legislative liaison, and the recommendation is to appoint Mr. Kirshner.
Thank you. May I get a motion on the table to appoint Mr. Michael Kirshner as the Indiana School Board Association delegate and the association legislative liaison?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Wonderful. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have our appointment of Carmel Clay Parks representative.
Thank you. Each year, it's necessary for the board to appoint a board member to the Carmel Clay Parks Board. It's recommended that Mrs. Katie Browning be appointed as the Carmel Clay Parks Board representative.
Thank you. May I get a motion on the table to appoint Mrs. Katie Browning as the Carmel Clay School Board representative to the Carmel Clay Parks Board?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we have our Carmel Redevelopment Commission representative, Dr. Dudley.
Each year, the board traditionally identifies a board member to serve as the Carmel Redevelopment Commissioner representative, and it is recommended that Mr. Michael Kirshner is appointed as the redevelopment representative.
Thank you. May I get a motion on the table to appoint Mr. Michael Kirshner as a Carmel Redevelopment Commission representative?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have the established salaries of board members, and to that we turn to Mr. McMichael.
Each year, the board traditionally establishes salaries of school board members during its organizational meeting. It's recommended that the school board salaries remain at $2,000 per year as per statute.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. May I get a motion on the table to establish salaries of school board members to continue to be $2,000 per statute?
So.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have consent. May I get a motion on the table to approve consent?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of approving consent signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. At this time, I'll suspend the regular board meeting and open a public hearing regarding the proposed sale of general obligation bonds to be applied to the facility improvements at Carmel High School, Forestdale Elementary, and also the technology upgrades throughout the school corporation. So, our meeting is suspended, and we will open up the public hearings. Mr. McMichael, would you like to comment on the first public hearing?
Yes, I would. The Board of School Trustees previously adopted a resolution approving of the publication of required notices of public hearings necessary for the board to conduct in conjunction with its consideration of the issuance of general obligation bonds to fund certain improvements to school facilities. Indiana law currently requires the board to conduct 2 public hearings prior to considering adoption of a resolution preliminarily determining to issue general obligation bonds for certain controlled projects. The board conducted its first public hearing on December the 11th. This will be the second hearing following which the board may adopt the attached resolution. The law requires that the following information be made available to the public at each hearing. The project for which the board is considering issuing general obligation bonds consists of certain renovations and miscellaneous facility improvements at Carmel High School, including but not limited to paving, repair, or replacement of finishes, partial replacement of the field house roof, related to renovation of the skylights roof structure, replacement of the field house floor, and restoration of the E-wing roof, certain renovations and miscellaneous facility improvements at Forestdale Elementary School, including but not limited to roof replacement, playground resurface, and renovation and pavement repairs, acquisition and installation of technology upgrades throughout the school corporation facilities, and all projects related to any of the foregoing projects. The maximum principal amount is $8,195,000. Maximum term of the bonds is 3 years, with the final payment being 1/15/21. Estimated interest rate on the bonds is 2.25%. Estimated total interest cost for the bonds is $383,427. If the board adopts a resolution making a preliminary determination following this public hearing, a notice will be published, and property owners or registered voters will have 30 days following the publication to file a petition requesting the application of a petition remonstrance process for the proposed bond issue. The school corporation's current debt service levy is $23,318,347, and the current debt service rate is 0.3252 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. The estimated increase if the bonds are issued to the debt service levy is $5,230,289, and the tax rate is 0.0679 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. However, as existing obligations mature, the anticipated net impact on the debt service tax rate is 0. Please see the attached slide for the debt service levy and tax rate estimates over the next 10 years, and so that's projected up on the screen. The percent of the school corporation's current and projected debt service payments divided by the net assessed value of the taxable property within the school corporation is approximately 0.33%. The percent of the school corporation's outstanding long-term debt, coupled with the outstanding long-term debt of other taxing units located within the school corporation, divided by the net assessed value, is approximately 12.81%. And with that, that would be the opportunity for any public comment.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I'll offer members of the public to have an opportunity to make comments regarding these plans. Thank you. Please join us at the podium. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, it's Morris, Morris. Hi, Eric Morris, 1075 Arlington Court, Indianapolis, Indiana. So I come back here to talk about the school bond, and I kind of thought I would. The first time I really started understanding the finances for the schools were in May during the run-up to the referendum when I met Dr. Wall, who I have noticed is still not here. I don't know if that means anything. But the whole point of the bond, and I tried to ask him this question a couple of times, Dr. Wall, was to keep tax rates at that exact same, that just hit that mark perfectly. And to me, that just sounds like a very strange position of governance, of determining what's best for the children. And I noticed this last month, the same thing. You're not changing the tax rate. Are you selling the kids short by not raising the taxes, by not spending more? Why is it exactly to this penny? And I noticed that the city of Carmel does the same thing. I think a lot of other entities in Hamilton County do the same thing. But is that really your governing principle? Is that really how governance is done in this part of the country? I've been here 5.5 years. I'm starting to figure that out. That we'll do anything we can up to the current tax rate. No down, no up. You don't think about it in this grand strategic vision of what's best for the children, what's best for the taxpayers. No, it's what's best for maintaining a number on a tax bill. Is that really what drives you? Is that really is that the limiting principle? So in my last minute and 15 seconds, I would ask you to, so if you're going to govern to the penny, I'm going to ask you to govern to the penny. So I would ask you to reduce the principal amount of $8.195 million by the amount that Dr. Wall and the HR director have been paid while not working over the last 3 months apparently, and the cost, I am assuming, to Dr. or Mr. Day for this investigation. So that's one choice. So drop it down if you're going to keep everything to a zero, to a penny. Or two, wait 3 months, the time period that you've spent investigating this person, until you actually vote on this and approve this. So I'm just asking you to sort of make a decision based on something that is not 0-0. Or if you're going to zero it out based on what's happened with Dr. Wall and Ms. Middleton for the last 3 months. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's 1075 Arlington. That's a 46280.
And seeing that there are no further comments on this public hearing, we will close this public hearing regarding the sale of bonds. And since we are still on public hearings, at this time I will open a public hearing regarding the additional appropriation for facility improvements at Carmel High School, Forestdale Elementary, and technology upgrades throughout the school corporation. And with that, we'll turn to Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. This additional appropriation simply provides the process to appropriate these funds, and it's necessary to have the appropriation approved in order to actually be able to spend the money.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. At this time, I'll offer members of the public an opportunity to comment regarding the additional appropriations. And seeing that there are no comments from members of the public, the public hearing regarding the additional appropriations is now closed, and we'll resume the regular board meeting at this time. And moving straight into action, our first action item is the adoption of the bond resolution for Carmel High School, Forestdale Elementary School, and the technology upgrades throughout the school system. So now it is time to take action regarding the resolution for the proposed sale of the GO bonds. Excuse me. Do I have a motion on the table to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of supporting the resolution for the proposed sale of the GO bonds related to Carmel High School, Forestdale Elementary, and the technology upgrade throughout the school corporation signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. And now it is also time to take action regarding the resolution for the additional appropriations that Mr. McMichael had shared and we had the public hearing regarding. May I get a motion on the table to approve the resolution?
So move.
Thank you, Lynn. May I have a second?
So moved.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor of approving the resolution for the additional appropriation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have our Board of Finance organization. So at this time, I'll request a motion to suspend the Carmel Clay School Board meeting for the purpose of convening the Carmel Clay School Board of Finance meeting. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Mr. McMichael, would you provide the board with some background information regarding the Board of Finance?
Yes, each year it's necessary for the Board of School Trustees to organize themselves as a Board of Finance to conduct the following business. First is to elect a president and a secretary, to review the report of investments, and the third item is to approve the public, it says the public depositories. That's already been approved by the state, and what you're doing is approving those depositories that the state has said would qualify as depositories.
Okay. Thank you very much, then. So the first item that we will be addressing would be to elect a president and a secretary for the Board of Finance. The administration is recommending the president and secretary of the school board also serve as the president and secretary of the Board of Finance. May I have a motion to support this recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you. A second? This would be me and Katie, yes. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. I'll just confirm with what Pam had questioned. It would be with our new reorganization. It would serve, I would serve Layla Spanenberg as the president, and Katie Browning would be serving as the secretary. May I motion? Well, we have our motion. We have our second. All those in favor of supporting the board president and secretary to serve as the Board of Finance president and secretary signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Next, I'll ask Mr. McMichael to present the report of investments for 2017 and present that information regarding the investment program.
Thank you. Our investments this year, the interest earnings were $97,031.41. I would share with you that several years ago, we peaked at about $1.5 million in interest earnings. At that point, the interest rate earnings was about 6%, and as you can see from your report in front of you, this year we're earning 0.25%, and that was both the high and the low, so it's stayed the same all the way through the year. Our investments are, first, the school board can only invest in government-backed security, essentially certificates of deposit, and so our funds are invested overnight in what's called repurchase agreements. They're just very short overnight CDs, basically, and so that currently that is our investment program, because the certificates of deposit historically, from time to time, they would provide more interest earnings than the overnight, but currently that's not the case. So the money is constantly invested in repurchase agreements, and so that is our investment program. And then I believe you have the policy related to the investment or the investment policy as a part of the report.
We do. Thank you, Mr. McMichael. Does anybody have any questions regarding the district's investment program or the depositories that we are using? Thank you. Well, seeing that there's no other business for the Board of Finance, may I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Finance meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Katie. Second? Second. Thanks, Pam. All those in favor? Aye. And at this time, we'll reconvene the meeting of the Carmel Clay School Board of Trustees. And with that, we have board member reports. As we are reorganizing, we certainly have other areas that board members fulfill with regards to, say, the policy committee and then other upcoming committees or responsibilities of the board. And for 2018, Lynn Zhang and Pam Knowles have both stepped up and are very much interested in being responsible for our representatives for our policy committee. So I'm very excited about that. I know we'll have a transition, and we'll have a meeting, and we'll go through kind of leftover policies that we're continuing to work on, and that will transition very nicely. And then as different opportunities come up in the upcoming year, we will have other board members fulfill those responsibilities as well. I know Mike has been working very closely with our legislators, and I don't know if there's anything new to report besides our legislative breakfast on Friday.
I guess the only report would be, I think since we've met last, and maybe not, Dr. Dudley and Mr. McMichael and myself met with Representative Torr and Representative Shalabley, both of which we've had a long history of, working with, and we just continued our relationship. And then I guess I've not shared, I did copy everybody on ISBA asked us to take a stand on a specific bill dealing with the start of the school year, which, again, at this point, it's very early in the process. That bill might not even make it out of committee. I did hear back from some of the representatives that we sent it to. I think Representative Torr responded to everybody, but I will go back and look, and for those that did not respond to everybody, I will share that with the board. So.
Thank you, Mike, and I really appreciate you putting together a very comprehensive rationale as to why we do not support that particular bill on a school start date at the end of August. And Dr. Dudley, I know you had made some comments as well as to why this really wouldn't benefit our students, and I do appreciate that. Do we have other board member reports that we'd like to share as we are moving into the first of the year? Fantastic. Well, that being the case, I do have one item I'd like to share. The school board wants the community to know that the board continues to work towards resolving the employment status of Dr. Wall. To do this, the board is consulting with legal counsel to be sure it complies with the constraints imposed by Indiana law and Dr. Wall's employment contracts as superintendent as well as a teacher. At this time, this is a personnel matter, and the board will not make any further comments. Thank you. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.